Interesting interview that we just heard there with Palesa and the MEC for safety out in the Western Cape following these gangsterism incidences. Now, let's just take a bigger look at gangsterism in South African townships. It really is a common occurrence. And recently, as you just heard, 18 people, including Community Protection Patrols members, were killed in different gang-related incidences at the Marikana Informal Settlement in Cape Town and the Western Cape last week. Hundreds of community members are reportedly fleeing the area as a result of the gang violence. Officers from specialised police units, including intelligence operatives, have been brought in to monitor the notorious informal settlement. Now, let's talk a little bit more about gangsterism and the effects on people's lives and how you get into gangsterism. We're joined in studio by Alistair Fredericks. He's a former gang member from Eldorado Park. Alistair, thank you very much for being with us here on Morning Live.
Good morning. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Yeah, so we talk about the fact that you're a former 26's a gang member. How did you get into gangsterism? Let's begin there.
Okay, I don't know how we justify former, because it's like kind of when you're a priest, I don't think you know you're not a priest anymore.
Yeah.
You might not practice as that, so you don't practice the gangsterism mentality anymore. What happens is, I think it's generally about your growing up. You know, it has a lot to do when you're growing up. My situation was, you know, at home, I got my parents, both my parents, and it was fine for me. So what happens was that as I grew up, I was at a private school since a young age. Everything was multiracial, I understood that. Yeah. When I came to Standard 8, I came to the community school. It all changed. Yeah. It's like being dumped in a different kind of ecosystem, and you need to adapt. And got caught up with the wrong crowd, and it spiraled out of control from there.
Yeah.
And my life became a life of crime, to a point where it became a kind of a business, and this is what it became, and it just gets worse and it rockets out of control, totally.
So what you're saying is that it's almost a sense of adapt or die. You're either going to fit in and behave like others behave, or it's almost a fight for your life. Or can you get out of it? Can you avoid it in hindsight, having a look back to how you did eventually get into gangsterism? Could you have stayed away from it?
Yes, I think I could have.
Yeah.
It's all about choice. Yes, you can stay away from it. I think it would be an excuse to say that you can't. It was about choice, trying to fit in, and that's exactly where I got swallowed in by the streets. Basically swallowed me in.
What are the kind of things you got up to?
Jeez. Crime. Your life was a life of crime. That's what it was about. Everything was crime. No respect for the rule of law. You're constantly on the wrong side of the law. You find yourself living in and out of prisons for most of your life. Yeah. And the reality is that you lie to yourself. You live this, not you, for the most part of your life. And that's the part that, but inside of you, because you grew up a certain way, you find that it's extremely difficult to be settled. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it was difficult for me to be settled, because why? I wasn't brought up this way. And something inside of me was saying, no man, Alistair, this is not you.
Yeah.
And it was very, very difficult.
I mean, your family obviously watching in on this and are helpless at that time. I mean, were they trying to help you? Were you completely against them, not listening to a word they were telling you?
You see, you have a different kind of a worldview. You see things a way that you think it's normal, and it's not normal. And obviously my parents never brought me up that way. So we come from a very strong Christian-based family. We're Catholic. So those Catholic principles started to kick in the latter years of my life. The private school, Catholic school, started kicking in. And today I reap those benefits.
How did you get out of it? I mean, if I know you say you're not this former gangster, because once it's in you, but you don't practice it anymore. But yeah. What was the turning point in your life?
Jesus.
Okay. So Jesus. You found religion again?
I had religion, but I think what's important is that from where I come from and the dark places I found myself in, the only thing that took me out there was God. There's nothing else that can take you out from there, because like I say, it's in your dark corners where you find that inner relationship, that inner peace with God. Because it was kind of a situation where you go to church and it seems like the homily is always directed at you. And you ask yourself, I'm Christian. As Christian, if going to church makes me Christian, then it means standing in the garage should also make me a car. And I kind of reflected onto, what does my Christianity actually say?
Yeah.
And then, you know, the words of Martin Luther always comes that, what are you actually doing for other people today?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's what and then obviously I've transformed, and then I started combating substance abuse. I work with the local drug action committee in Eldorado Park, Darlene James, Cheryl Palais, Liesel Valu, and I got a very close friend of mine, also a very former gangster, also assists people, Paul James. We're extremely close, constantly communicating on WhatsApp. So that's what we do, and that's what we strive to make a better life for other people.
So it's almost as if you've found your purpose in and amongst everything. We noticed that when you arrived, you're in a wheelchair. You are crippled. You wouldn't say it's seeing you sitting there, but for viewers out there, what happened? How did that come
All right,
about?
I'm not crippled. I'm disabled.
You're disabled.
Yes.
Thank you for correcting me. You give me all the right words.
I'm not crippled. Yes. Yes, I was gunned. I was shot in 1997, the 10th of October.
Yeah.
And again, it goes to attitude. It was a confrontation that a friend of mine had, nothing to do with me at all. I was at a place at Buffalo's at Southgate, and I came out. A friend of mine was having a fight, and obviously you don't engage in a way that tries to defuse conflict. You kind of exacerbate it by the manner in which you conduct yourself. So it's all about arrogance. It's all about attitude. It's all about I'm warm. There's no trying to resolve, you know, you've got this that you feel, you the guy, you the macho guy. And yeah, that's
how it
20
happened.
years later.
20 years later.
Uh-huh.
Did you ever kill anyone?
No.
No.
But I've shot many people.
Okay, but none of them died?
I don't know.
You don't know. What about what you're seeing happening now in Philippi? I mean, we're talking about 18 lives that have been lost in this gangsterism, and it doesn't look like it's going to end here, and they're calling for more police presence, they're calling for the SANDF to go in, they're calling for the community to work with government. Is this going to help, do you think? Do you think that this is something that can stop the gangsterism?
I think what's important is first engagement with the community, because nobody knows your community better than the members of the community. That's number one. Number two is that when you look at the type of crimes, especially how heinous they've become, is that we need to, all of it is linked to substance abuse. All the crimes you look at are linked to substance abuse. There's nothing else that's linked to substance abuse. People are abusing each other, people are raping their grandparents, people are robbing, it's all related to substance abuse. So I think if our law enforcement agencies start to come down a little bit more harsher on the substance abuse issues, I guarantee you our communities are going to be getting better. Because the challenge for us as community activists is that we are fighting with this multi-billion rand enterprise with no resources.
Yeah.
And then what you find too is that many a times that you have the upper structure of SABs that are assisting us, but on the ground roots, the guys are just taking money.
Yeah.
Left, right and center.
That's what I wanted to ask you, because I've read numerous articles about, you know, families that have spoken to journalists, and they're always talking about the fact that they'll call the police, they'll report something, and either the police just don't arrive, they come the next day, and they're involved. These are just articles and stories that I've heard. Can you confirm that? I mean, are the police involved in this criminal activity and just refuse to actually take action against gangsters?
They're most definitely involved. Trust me, I've been there. I know what I'm talking about. These people are definitely involved. There's no two ways about it. They are definitely involved. That's just fact, right? So what happens is that the question is that they don't employ a level of intelligence. It's easy to employ entrapment. What they're busy doing are arresting a bunch of users to push up their stats to say this is the bout we've arrested. Where's the intelligence to say, Alistair, we've arrested you with a substance, where did you buy it? That doesn't get dealt with. Why? Because you're on the payroll of Mr. Dealer X. That's exactly the situation that's happening. And currently in Eldorado Park, we're faced with that type of problem, because what has happened is the type of gangsterism that transpires in Cape Town has now moved over to Joburg, and now it's infiltrated into Eldorado Park. There's constantly killing. It's kind of a norm. How can people be dying be normal? How can someone be gunned down 10, 15 shots be normal? How can that be normal?
Yeah.
So the value of life is kind of, it's not there anymore. So these are the challenges that we're faced with. And that's why I'm saying when we look at it, everything links to substance abuse
Yeah.
and the sale of substance.
Alistair, I really have enjoyed speaking to you, and I wish we could, but unfortunately we have to wrap it there. But thank you for your honesty. Thank you for talking to us. I think you've given us some valuable insights into the life of gangsterism, and I'm glad that you are out of it. I know you don't want me to call you a former gangster, but I feel that you are. You seem to have turned, you are reformed from that lifestyle.
Yes.
And I hope many people can learn from your lessons.
Thank you so much. It's a difficult journey, but we're striving along.
Thanks very much for being with us. Alistair Fredericks having an open conversation with us here on Morning Live. He was a gangster, and he is from El Dorado Park.